All right, so this is the section where we're going to be using some different papers when we're creating our jelly prints. So the first thing that we're going to do is an emboss resist background. So I'm inking my stamp with some clear embossing ink, and I am going to emboss it with some clear powder. So I'm just using some regular cardstock with this, but this is going to work much easier than trying to do it on printer paper and then gluing it onto cardstock for making cards. I'm just pouring the powder on, making sure that it goes over the entire surface, and then I'm going to heat it with my heat gun and melt the powder. There we go. Our background is completely embossed, and I am actually going to do that a second time so that we have two of them. All right, we got the second one embossed. So first one is regular cardstock. Second one is the paper for my Delusions journal. It's a mixed media paper, so it is made so that it would handle other mediums, so I can use it with some distress sprays. The sprays or wet mediums don't really work well with regular cardstock. It's not meant for wet mediums. So I've already got my embossing here. I've got my ink down. Let's press it down in our background. And I just wanted you to see the difference between how it looks with just an inked and brayered background or with sprays. So there we go. The embossing completely resists the ink from the background. If you get a little bit of ink bubbling on top of the embossing powder, or the embossing, just wait for it to completely dry, and then you can use a baby wipe to wipe it clean. I don't find I mind that much. After this, you can also just take a print of that background, because some of that ink stays down there and it creates kind of a cool print. So the next one is with some sprays. Now I have a mixture of regular distress sprays and Oxide sprays. Try not to drop it onto your plate. If you're using Oxide sprays, you want to make sure that you've mixed them together so that you get the pigment and the dye mixed before spraying them. And now I'm going to put my paper in there. You can see as we're going, my hands are getting fairly blue from the dye. It is dye. It's going to dye your hands. If that bothers you, you can use some gloves to keep your hands clean. I don't find it bothers me. So there we get another resist, but they look both very different. So when you're doing this one with some liquid mediums, make sure you're using a paper that can handle the liquid medium. This needs to be set aside to dry. I've still got some ink on there. So I'm going to lift that up here and create another background with that. So for this, the only thing appropriate for the printer paper is just to be using behind it, because obviously these sprays on here look completely different than that. They react totally different, and this is definitely not an appropriate use of the printer paper. So we're using the extra drips, not my favorite background, but it could be really, really cool if it was die cut into a shape and used in that way. So now let's put some more sprays down. Let's get that out of the way. The one thing with sprays, you want to make sure you have your background covered, because it is very easy to have overspray, and you don't want to spray on something that you're not wanting to get overspray on. So I could just print it like this with just the sprays on, but let's have a little bit of fun. I've got some mica spray here. So I'm going to put some of this mica spray on with this one, and it's just going to add just a really subtle shimmer. And then the other thing I have here is some Perfect Pearls in Pewter. I just chose the Pewter simply because it was very similar color to the mica spray. You can use, again, whatever color you're wanting. So Perfect Pearls are a mica powder, but they have a binding agent in them. So the liquid from the sprays, the water from the sprays, will activate that binding agent. I am going to spray it with a little bit of water on this one, just to get a little bit more moisture with those pearls. If you wanted, you could take a paintbrush to move it around a little bit, because they do tend to stay in the same area. They don't move and flow. So let's put one down, and then let's put another one down. And you could try just using your finger to move the inks around to get it all completely, to get contact with that jelly plate, but I do find that the printer paper helps. So the print or the sparkle in this one from the pearl spray, the mica spray, is very subtle. It's going to be more prominent in this one, but it is going to be concentrated to the areas where I put that pearl down. So there you go. So once again, if you were to take a paintbrush before doing it and move it around, it would be moved around a little bit more, but it's just kind of an interesting background with those blobs of the mica there. So I'm going to completely clean this up, and I will see you in the next, actually no, I'm going to wait till the next video, and we'll clean it all up together while I talk about cleaning care of your jelly plate.